Hi everybody, Dr. Balcavage again, and I'm back again to talk about another hidden cause of thyroid symptoms. Today we're going to talk about cortisol. And if you remember from other videos, I said these are hidden causes because your lab values of your thyroid markers will typically be within lab range, that pathology range. So your doctor won't pick these up. But because I use a more comprehensive evaluation process and we use what are called functional or optimal ranges, the ranges the body works best in for assessing these lab values or lab tests, we can pick up on some of these 24 patterns of thyroid problems. So today we want to talk about cortisol. And cortisol is a hormone released by the adrenal gland. Your adrenal gland sits just above your kidney. And your cortisol is the primary hormone that controls your blood sugar. I know you might have thought it was insulin, but it's actually cortisol. And so anytime there's cortisol is also a stress hormone. So anytime there's a stress response on the body, whether it's physical, chemical, emotional, fluctuations in blood sugar, whatever the cause of a stressor on the body, short term we're okay. We get quick cortisol dump, it does produce and it does what it needs to do. It's really more chronic stress that typically where we start to see health conditions or health problems occur. And so cortisol problems will cause also release of cytokines. If you remember from an earlier video, the excess cytokine release will squash the pituitary's ability to produce TSH. Now remember, we call these hidden secrets or hidden causes because your TSH and T4 or free T4 levels will typically be within laboratory range or pathology range, but not within the optimal range, the range the body works best in. So by doing more comprehensive testing and by doing more and using these functional values, we can pick up on these patterns. So what do you do if you have a cortisol problem that you think may be causing this pattern? Well, you'll definitely probably have thyroid symptoms even though you're taking medication or even though your lab values are normal. You may have you may be tired, fatigued, exhausted, and what you really need to do is you need to assess cortisol function. I like to use a test called an ASI, an adrenal stress index, to measure different functions of cortisol release and cortisol rhythm. Sometimes I see people with a blood test for cortisol, and I'm not really fond of the blood test because your cortisol levels should fluctuate through the day, starting highest in the morning, dropping during the day till its lowest point around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then starting to crank up again as the evening goes on. But if you take a blood level, it may be normal for that time of the day, but it doesn't tell us what's happening the rest of the day. So an adrenal stress index and a measurement of that is one of the best ways to assess your cortisol levels and your adrenal gland function. The other thing we need to do is find out what the stressor is, because if we don't identify what the stress is that's causing your cortisol release, we may never get you better. So is it emotional stress? Is it financial stress? Is it a marital stress? Is it metabolic stress because you're massive blood sugar swings, or you're reactive hypoglycemic or insulin resistant? Is it something else? So what needs to be done to evaluate if cortisol is your issue is really do a comprehensive evaluation like we do in our office. Like I always say, it's easier to probably take a pill, but the pill isn't going to make you healthy. It's just going to make your symptoms maybe a little bit better, maybe not, and maybe make your lab values look better, but you're not going to be healthier. What you need is to evaluate what is the actual cause, what's going wrong, and this is where the real doctoring begins. So I hope you've gotten some good information that cortisol is one of those hidden causes of thyroid symptoms that your doctor may have never told you about, but you're not crazy, you're not nuts. There are reasons why you feel lousy even though your labs are normal.